So, welcome everyone. We're live on our live podcast episode. Today, we'll be talking about the unseen helpers. So, we include spirit guides, angels, loved ones, and more. You'll see once we start chatting. This is a live podcast episode, so you can submit your questions, but we would ask you to submit any questions at the end. Or if you're watching this on replay, then feel free to submit a question or share your experience in any way within the comments. So I've got Mel Stevens with me, as usual. um, yeah. So Mel, did you want to say a little hello?
Yeah, sure. So anybody that hasn't seen me before, my name's Melanie Stevens. I'm a spiritual mentor, Reiki master and tarot reader, and I'm based in Devon in the UK.
Perfect. And for those who don't know me, I'm Kat Bazilko, and I'm a spiritual medium and healer based in UK as well, in Swindon. I do currently offer sessions mainly online anyway, so wherever you are in the world, you can reach me. Our website, our details, contact details, and all the socials that we have are in the description, so just have a look if you'd like to find out more about us or contact us. Okay, so, right. I guess we might as well just start talking about our unseen helpers. I was actually quite excited about this conversation because I feel that knowing this information can bring some relief to some people. I think it can maybe help them feel a little bit more supported. It definitely is something that helped me when I found out. Yeah, I'll just let you start, Mel, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. I think with me as well, I've actually only quite recently started to understand who my guides are. I have had information given to me before in the past by mediums who've connected, and once or twice they've said, oh, your guide looks like this or looks like that. But for me, and that's wonderful, I'm not knocking that at all, but for me, there's nothing better than your own personal experience of seeing them. And when I've seen my guides, they've shown me what they look like, they've given me words, I've gone and Googled it because I haven't had a clue what it's even meant, which is brilliant because I know that it's not coming from my brain. And I've been able to discover like who they were and where they lived, and it's really interesting. But I've known for quite a while now that I've got spirit guides. I understood and learned about the main guide, which we'll talk about in a second, our gatekeeper. But I do kind of wish that I'd known I had spirit guides a long time ago, because there've been periods in my life where I've struggled a bit. There've been periods in my life where I felt lonely, and knowing that I was never alone in those moments of feeling alone would have brought me a lot of comfort. But we learn about our guides when we're good and ready, don't we? And they show themselves to us at some point when we've developed that connection with them and we know they're there. But yeah, it just reminds me we're never alone, which is lovely.
Yes, exactly. And that's also sort of the time when I started being aware of them, is when I joined mediumship group. I was only going in for as an observer at the time. And I was just hearing, a few things about, oh, spirit guide is this and that kind of thing. Never heard that description before, anyone mentioning, but and it is true, I suppose, that at the time, because I was developing mediumship, I maybe had the chance to at least also at the same time start working on how to get in contact with my spirit guide, how to recognize their presence. Whereas not everyone necessarily might want to go, develop as a medium or necessarily join any circles of any sort. And that's okay. You don't have to be interested in actively pursuing any sort of, let's call it, spiritual modality to be able to contact your spirit guides. So it's just to say, I suppose, that they're always there. And I thought, because we started talking about spirit guides, but I thought I'll just mention that we want to kind of break it down and maybe just share what we know and what we've experienced thus far in our own lives. in terms of what may be the difference between a spirit guide and an angel and loved one in spirit, because I know many people call loved ones in spirit their angels. Some people are not very maybe keen or open, I don't know, on distinguishing maybe the two. It just depends. Before I actually go ahead, I was just going to say that the way we approach the subject and I want to share with you guys is not based in any sort of religion, any religions, right? So this is just because a lot of these words and descriptions can bring the feelings of association, religious association. I definitely had that when I started. I remember when I started developing mediumship and I learned about spirit guides to start with. But I would read many books and just research on the topic. And, many mediums and people who dealt with mediumship or even psychic readings would also mention the angels. And at the time, I just remember I was very apprehensive. I was like, okay, spirit guides, because I had experience with during the mediumship circles when I was an observer, and I was like, okay, I can see this is happening. I can see, people connect with their loved ones, and so I understand why spirit guides would be there. But angels, at the time, I had a very deeply ingrained negative associations when it comes to religious associations. Again, I'm repeating the word, but it just had I was thinking, oh, now this is a little bit far. It's a bit too far for me right now. until until it didn't. I didn't until it didn't feel so far. But I'll get to that a little bit later. So yeah, so maybe what do you think? Shall we let's maybe start with maybe the difference or how we understand the difference between a spirit guide, a loved one in spirit, angels, and gods, goddesses, ascended masters, any other descriptions, let's say, that we hear about when we read about spirituality in general and our support team, I suppose.
Yeah, and for me, when I first started working with my guides, knowing that it was my guides I was working with, they send me a sign so that I knew I can see them now clairvoyantly. But at the time, they would send me a sign so that I knew they were with me. And this is something anybody can start to do. You don't have to be a medium. You don't have to be a Reiki master. You don't. Everybody, every human being has spirit guides, every single human, spiritual or otherwise, whether you know it or not, whether you talk to them or not. But what you can start to do is ask them to show you when they're around you. So for me, when my spirit guides, any of them, because we have more than one, we'll get to that later. It's such a huge subject, isn't it?
It is.
So much to talk
That's why
about.
I was like, where do we start?
Yeah. When my spirit guides are around me, they would ring my left ear. So my left ear would suddenly make a weird sound as if I'd gone underwater, and then I'd hear a very high pitched ringing that would come and then go. Not tinnitus. It's very much a, oh, what's happening with my ear? Something strange is going on. Then I get the ringing. Then it disappears. It's not a constant ringing where I think there's a medical condition going on, and it's only in one ear. That started to become the regular calling sign, if you like. When my guides were with me, they'd ring my left ear, and it would be, I would start to think, okay, what was I saying or doing or thinking when they rang my ear? Because that's what they're trying to draw my attention to. And usually it's them saying, yes, this that you're talking about, this course you're on about doing, this person you're going to visit or what have you, this is really good for you. When I've got a loved one with me, and again, I've just asked them, can you show me when you're with me, and let me differentiate, my left ear will ring. So that for me is the difference between a
The right
spirit
ear.
guide. Sorry, my right ear, and I'm pointing there and I'm saying left. Right ear, yeah. This one. My right ear will ring when it's a loved one. My left ear will ring when it's a spirit guide. So just that, just when you start working with guides, just that small differentiation would help me to know who was with me. And you can set the intention and just say out loud to your spirit guide. You don't need to call them in. Your gatekeeper's always there, and just say, can you show me when you're around me? Do something so I know it's you. and then your loved ones, your ancestors, you can ask them to show you something different so that you know which is which.
So I was gonna go into maybe the differences that I understand and what I've learned up until now and experienced. And by the way, just quickly, it's interesting. I do get the left ear ringing as well. And it's such a good description because I always wondered that feeling as if you're underwater first and then it like rings. That's
Yeah,
so perfect. I never thought. I always describe it as sort of like a change in pressure, air pressure. Like I couldn't put my
yeah, that's how
yeah. It's
it's hard to
yeah,
explain it until it happens, and it's quite prominent, isn't it?
it
It takes
is.
where you think, what's going on? It's like you're tuning into a different frequency,
Yeah.
or you're, yeah, like the air pressure's dropped. It's a
Yeah,
strange
it's
thing to
yeah, and it's
describe.
just that one side, and I'm like, oh, I know, there's something going, you
Hello,
know.
hello.
um, but yeah, so I wanted to share maybe my understanding of the difference that I have. Some of it is my understanding that I have learned from other mediums, books, and etc. And some is also my feeling, so my experience in a sense when I started working with the unseen helpers in general. So I just wanted maybe for those who are very first time listening about this subject, they never really read anything or heard of it before. I just wanted to kind of maybe explain or let you know how to think about those unseen helpers that are around us. So if you were to remember, we all are made of energy, right? So we all have a lot of energy around us. Our aura, our chakras are. I mean, if you're listening to this podcast, then you gotta be already kind of familiar that we have a soul and spirit, right? And then we have a physical body. So the idea of our unseen helpers is that they are within the dimension of where they don't have the physical body anymore, and they're not preoccupied or worried in any way with our with earthly living, right? So once we die, our body obviously goes back into the ground, merges with the earth. Our consciousness and our spirit stays, and it stays within the realm of spirit, so-called spirit. You can call it universe, whatever kind of works for you. But the whole point is that we are still energy floating. So that's kind of how you would um, know that your loved ones are on the other side. So they're staying as the energy, the pure energy of the creation, right? So before you incarnate, you are just pure energy without any earthly worries, burdens, problems, life. Any of the physical stuff is left. You're just pure energy. That can be also called again God's energy, universe energy. Enter whatever works for you. So when we have family members or friends or whoever during our life, we when they pass over, their energy is there. Those are the our unseen helpers called the loved ones, let's say, that we are referring to as loved ones. So people who were with us during our lifetime, we still have a strong energetic bond with them. They're there on the other side, wanting to help us still. They can hear our thoughts. We are energetically still connected. We are very much in resonance with each other. Then the spirit guides are the energies, should I say energies, that have incarnated on Earth at some point, but they haven't been within the same lifetime as we are right now. But they have decided to stay on the other side to help us with our earthly living, with their through their guidance, their spiritual guidance, and the fact that they have had experience of life on Earth. And the way I understand it, we as a spirit or a soul, before we incarnate, we kind of have a plan or a blueprint plan, right? It's not super detailed, And we ask, so we're going through different experiences in life. We're learning different so-called lessons, although I gotta say I'm not a biggest fan of the word lesson, so I call it experiences that we have throughout life, and our spirit guides are there to guide us. Our, let's call him main spirit guide, will be the one who is with us from birth and throughout the whole life, and they're just sort of dedicated to help us grow and to guide us in life so that we are, I suppose, fulfilling our blueprint or the plan that we have set out. Now you can have other spirit guides that come in and go throughout your life depending on what it is that you're doing and what support you need from them. And then I suppose I was thinking I'll mention the angels because I mean I'm working with angels, so I'll start with them as well, just to kind of show the difference maybe between spirit guides. I am personally most familiar with spirit guides and angels only. So angels, the difference between now angels and our spirit guides would be that the angels have never incarnated into earth, so they're still within the pure form that we all have within us, right? So that God's energy, universe energy, creation energy, but they have never incarnated on earth, and so they come with help that is very highly, I want to say, sort of pure in essence, in the sense that they help us reach our enlightened state, or how should I put this? Their energy is a lot more supportive of our soul's plan and our heart's needs. So whenever you experience an angel presence, or you receive a message from an angel, for instance, you could go for angel card readings with me, for example, and you would have the reading is different in a way that angels want to bring to your attention how, gosh, this is really difficult to explain, but it's sort of like your life review looked from above with angelic eyes. So angels love us unconditionally because they are made of unconditional love, same as spirit guides, but they're made of unconditional love. So they always see that in us. They always see what we might be missing within our human experience. We obviously see our faults and all the stuff we don't like, and they will always come with that precise, exact message that we need to, let's say, feed and heal our heart so that we can raise in our vibration, feel better, and heal from whatever it is that we're looking to heal from. And there is sort of an essence of universal energy. So each angel, archangel would have a different job to do, let's say. So they because they are pure essence, they would have, for instance, I think many of us would recognize Archangel Michael, who is known to be the protective archangel, angel of truth, strength, right? So that's kind of the qualities with which an archangel or an angel can come in and help us. So they could inspire, let's say, courage within us, or inspire strength, inspire truth, right? These are all, because these are all parts of us that we maybe often forget about, but they make a big difference when we tap into them. So they can be very healing, very guiding, but just in a different way. I hope I haven't melded up too much, because sometimes when I try, it's just so much I want to say. But yeah, that's, I think, is like the easiest way that I could explain the difference. I don't know, Mel. I'll let you add on or say whatever you know or experienced up until now when it comes to spirit guides. How do you understand them? Maybe what you've learned.
Yeah, and to be honest, I don't work particularly with the angelic realm so much, although I do call them in for protection sometimes. And I know that a lot of people that work with, for example, Archangel Michael for protection, cutting cords, and that's that type of work, because he's got that kind of energy that people can tap into. But the only thing that I gather is that with spirit guides, the guidance, the difference might be the guidance with the angelic guidance, like you were explaining, that connects to our heart. It connects
That reminds me.
bigger picture, highly evolved kind of guidance and love that they can provide us with, whereas spirit guides can be very practical guidance. You can have a spirit guide working with you to help you run your business. You can have a spirit guide working with you to help you raise a family, and you have multiple guides in addition to the gatekeeper, which we'll come to in a moment. You could have guides that come in when you set your new business up to help you, because they've been an entrepreneur and they've got that kind of mindset. They can help you with inspiration, ideas. They can help you meet the people you need to meet in your life to get where you need to get to. You can ask them, can you help me with collaborations? I need to meet people to get my message out there. And people will be brought to you, experiences and situations will be brought to you, because that particular guide is helping you with those really practical, earthly things that we're working on. Whereas that, I would probably call in an angel for that. That's my understanding of the difference, and that we can have guides for different areas of our lives.
Yeah, it's interesting. I thought I'll share this little breakdown between, because someone has created a little breakdown between what angel messages would be versus spirit guide messages, and I thought that's actually quite good. So spirit guides. So this was particularly about messages. So if you went, for a reading or something. So spirit guides, direct guidance in human/material matters, guidance about everyday life, love, career, etc. Psychic information / guidance, clarity on material topics, focus on your human self. I would add spiritual growth as well, because spirit guides are very dedicated to our spiritual growth, the way I see it. And then angels, emotional guidance and support, uplifting, inspirational, and healing. Messages rooted in healing and growth, what you need to heal right now. Guidance on matters of the heart, focus on your spirit self. So, although when I look at it, I think it's pretty close, but some of it I would say overlap in my experience. So I know that people who work a lot with angels, for instance, you can still ask your angel to help you find a good parking spot, for example. Yes, they can. That's really funny, because a lot of people mention that particular help that they call on their angels for. Thank you, angels. Please show me a good parking spot, and then they just give you the information. They just inspire you to go where you need to go. So, but I think I believe and I practice. I know that angels and spirit guides, they can help you in pretty much everything, but the way they help you might be different. So, like, I think the main difference that I understand from this little description I just read out, and I kind of mentioned it, that angels would be more heartfelt, healing, emotional help that will almost, I want to say, open your heart. It will heal your heart to whatever kind of is happening in your life. Spirit guides will know and guide you through difficult situations, knowing also that you need the spiritual growth in some of them. Okay, so I think, for instance, I would kind of see the difference in, let's say there's something difficult happening in your life. Your spirit guide was aware of it because it was in your plan, it was your blueprint, you're going through it, and they're kind of like, it's okay, you'll be fine, we're here. Well, we kind of like, we're supporting you, we're here. And then the angel might bring some sort of a healing message, in a sense of that will help us emotionally release maybe whatever it is that we're holding whilst going through a situation. I don't know. I kind of like kind of see it in that way. I know that whenever I was going through stuff that I didn't want to do, and I knew I had to, that was my spirit guide speaking to me. Because there were at least a couple of situations where, when I started my development, my mediumship, and there were things from the past that I forgot about. I was like, oh, I thought I'm over it. I wasn't thinking about it anymore. And now that I started this whole spiritual growth suddenly, and I just know my spirit guide is like, okay, this and this you got to do now. You got to address this now because no, it hasn't been healed or anything. And I was in such a state of sort of surprise. I thought, what? No, I don't have to do that. I'm not bothered by this. Is it really? And but I was clearly getting quite nervous that I kind of have to speak about
Mm.
this. If I need to go to therapy, talk to, whatever it is that I need to do, if I ask for help, they'll help me figure it out what's the best way for me to do it. But it was my spirit guide that was, because I have one of them that is very, very strong and very, like, I don't even know how to call him. He's like this mentor or this guru, I don't know, this teacher that is just, you can't break him. And he's also so loving and supportive, but at the same time, it's like you gotta listen to him kind of thing. So he was like, no, that's what it is. That's what you gotta do. End of kind of thing. And so, and I kind of, and I knew, it wasn't malicious in any way. It wasn't uncomfortable. It was just, I just know I need to. And the spirit guy was the one who would tell me about that. When I was in a very low emotionally state and I just needed to feel some love, I would call on angels and they would inspire me feeling amazing and uplifted. So it's kind of, I mean, those are my experiences. Um, but yeah, I think we all have them. Spirit guides, angels, our God. Oh, the other difference I just wanted to mention that I know of. So spirit guide would be with us from birth, within this lifetime, maybe previous, but it kind of relates to our current lifetime. And the guardian angel would be from the beginning of our soul's existence. So they know our soul and spirit from the very, very beginning. Um, yeah, and therefore they just work with our spirit on a soul level a lot more and help us bring those qualities of our soul to our life.
Yeah, and with the spirit guide being with us from birth. So my understanding is we have what we call a gatekeeper, which is our main spirit guide, who we agree with this spirit guide when we're in the spirit world before we incarnate. I want to come to Earth and I want to experience X, Y, and Z, and I want to experience it as a human, and I want to be this and blah, blah, blah. And this is the kind of country I want to grow up in and all this stuff. They are with us right from the word go, and they say, okay, I'm going to guide you. I'm going to be with you from birth till death. And then I will meet you and take you over, maybe with your loved ones as well, because I know many people talk about their loved ones coming and collecting them when they pass over. So that's our main guide who's been with us since birth. In addition, we have other guides who come in temporarily to help us with their specialism, whatever they've had a lot of experiences with. They get to a certain stage in their evolution when they say, okay, I've experienced this quite a lot on the earth. So now I'm going to guide other people when they get to this stage in their life. And they can do that with multiple people all at the same time, because obviously linear time is not, that's not how the spirit world experience it. They don't experience one thing after another. We do when we come to the earth plane, but for them they don't. So they can be with multiple people all at the same time, helping them with whatever it is that they really love to help people with. But the gatekeeper is with you for the whole journey. So you've had one being with you in addition to your guardian angel, who's been with you from start right the way through to finish, which isn't really finish. It's so complicated, isn't it?
It's like trying to break it down, making it simple, and you can't help using all these expressions.
I know. And I think it was one thing I wrote down earlier I thought was quite important to mention, is that for people working with their spirit guide, your spirit guide cannot interfere. Your spirit guide can assist and guide you, but they can't stop you experiencing what you've agreed with them that you're going to experience, you just don't know you agreed it, they're not going to interfere and go, oh, she's not enjoying that, let's make it stop. That's not how it works. So you know, that if you say to them, look, I'm really going through a difficult time, they're not going to go, okay, we'll interfere and stop you experiencing that. That's not their job. But they can help you through it, they can support you through it, because they know that you've chosen to come and experience sometimes things that are really, really difficult, but they won't interfere. What they can do is guide and support, but we do kind of need to ask a little bit as well,
That's, yeah.
because they're sort of watching from the sidelines. And when we go, spirit guides, can you help with this? I'm really struggling. Can you give me some inspiration? Can you put some protection around me today? I'm feeling really wobbly. Can you top my energy levels up because I've got to work and I'm struggling? They can do all of that if you ask, but they won't interfere with your progression and your experiences, because that's what you decided to come here to experience.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and you've touched on an important point. Spirit guides, as well as angels, can't help us unless we ask, right? Because that's an important part of working with them, is that you need to invite them, set the intention, and be willing for them to help you, because they're not going to force you to do anything. You have free will. If you ask for guidance, you receive guidance, and you ignore it, that's your choice. That's fine, you know. But they need to be invited. So yeah. And then I suppose we could maybe move on to well, either the signs and how they could communicate with us, or I wasn't sure if we wanted to touch on the ascended masters a bit, gods and goddesses maybe as well, because I
Yeah.
think we were talking with Mel, we're both not that overly familiar with gods, goddesses, and ascended masters, but we're happy to obviously share and give you a little bit more info on that as well if you're interested in
Mm.
into it, basically.
And what we could do as well, I was thinking, is maybe just give somebody a few examples of what can you ask your guide for? What sorts of
Yes.
ways can you work with them on a practical level, so that you can get their signs and messages and go, oh my God, I asked for that and it
Yes.
showed up. And
Definitely. Yeah. So yeah, maybe let's start with that. So as we're on the subject of spirit guides and angels, so okay, so I don't mind going first. When I was again, it was during the development of mediumship. I mean, but I don't think you have to particularly practice mediumship to be able to start feeling the subtle changes in your energy. Okay. So mediumship teaches you that. It's great in that. If you would, would like to find some practical steps, then probably good to maybe have a little read up on mediumship. Doesn't mean that you have to be a medium, but they just have a lot of good advice. But you can just do some. I'm sorry, Mel. I think I can hear my self a little bit. I don't know if your sound is a little bit high. Sorry about that. But I think one way of maybe getting familiar with your spirit guide, your angels, their energy, and when they are present around you. So, like for instance, Mel and I mentioned the ringing in the ear, but also it could be very subtle changes in or feelings of. I call it like little tickles on your face, for instance, or a lot of times it happens around where your head is and your hair. So it's kind of like little goosebumps, maybe, or kind of like a feeling of static, because that's the energy between your spirit guide or loved one or angel meeting your energy, right? So you could kind of, if you wanted very, let's say, physical evidence or experience, that's kind of one of the things that I can think of. But, it doesn't have to be that kind of experience. You don't have to seek or practice that. You can ask your angels, your guides, to give you a sign, right? Now, sign is kind of there's a lot of memes or memes, however you say it, about signs. How signy is a sign, right? If you if you ask a question and you say, please, angels or spirit guides, please give me a sign that this decision is good for me, that it's right, that I'm actually feeling that it's, it's my calling, I'm going in the right direction. The sign can come in so many ways, but it comes um, in ways that we can experience externally. And what I mean by that, you might watch something on TV that suddenly gives you an answer because they randomly talk about a topic that actually, ooh, that, I had a question and now I got the answer, kind of thing. You could literally see a writing on the bus. I don't know. Read a book, you decide to read a book on that day or the next few days, right? And then suddenly that book or that chapter, that sentence gives you the answer you were looking for. But you can also experience, I definitely did, encounters with the animal kingdom. A lot of times, spirit guides, loved ones, angels would send you birds. They would come in the places that are just a little bit unusual for them to come in, or they would look at you in a way that doesn't really, feels very personal, and it's very unusual. Also in dreams, they could show up in dreams. You might dream of them giving you a nudge, an answer. The answers could come up in the form of a friend that just called you or texted you and said exactly what you were waiting to hear. That quite often happens. So really, it could be literally anything. For example, I remember there was one time when I was asking a question. And this was actually the first time when I was asking for something super specific because I was kind of practicing with that. And I said, okay, if I'm meant to do this, please show me a yellow pen. If I'm meant to do that, please show me a blue pen, right? Now, on that day, so I was at work in the office and I'm coming back and I take buses, I use public transport. And I was on the bus, getting out, moving to the next one. And there was so it was a row of bus stops because it was like a place of gathering, and there was a what do you call it? It was the roof of the bus stop, whatever you call that,
Yeah, yeah.
and next to it was a lamp post. So as I got out of the bus and I looked at the name, the lamp post was covering half of the word, and the first half was pen, and it was in a yellow color. And I was and it completely covered the other bit. And I thought, yellow pen, okay, well, that's not exactly what I had in mind. I was thinking, I'll see a yellow pen somewhere, but it was actually a yellow pen. And I just thought that's pretty funny
I
how
love
sometimes, yeah, in a different way it can come in. But then I also did have an experience another time when I asked again for specific, okay, if this, then please show me, I can't remember the color, a red or blue balloon. And I was at home at the time, I was watching a movie. And then in the next 2 minutes, after I asked the questions, 2 or 5 minutes, there was a scene in the movie where a balloon fight broke off. And there was the balloon of the color that I was asking for. So that was a bit more specific to what I asked. But in both of these examples, although the first one wasn't exactly what I had in mind, but it exactly was kind of what I asked for anyway, just came in a different way. So, you just kind of have to trust that that's what it is, because unless you start, I suppose, disbelieving or doubting, then you're just going to miss it, right? Because it could come to us in any way.
I think that, and yeah, and when we get those signs, it's very, very easy to let the human take over and say that was a coincidence. Oh, that's far-fetched, blah blah blah. But the more you do it and the more you ask them, and that's not to say be demanding and say every 5 minutes, well, I want another time, but just to be open and to keep an open mind to how that might show up. It might be on the back of a magazine. I was laughing to myself then because we talk about signs. I get songs. And I get songs that come into my head and I just start singing them out loud, or I think, where did that come from? And then I sing the little piece of song that I've got in my head. I listen to the lyrics because I remember the song lyrics really well. I can remember song lyrics from 20 years ago for music I haven't heard for ages. And the lyric is always really, really key to what I've been thinking about or asking for. And I've said, can you help me? Can you give me some guidance? And then suddenly I get a completely random song, sometimes songs I don't even like, that start playing in my head. And when I say the lyric out loud, it makes perfect sense. Like you say, with books, I might pick up a book and just open it, and then there's something on the page that answers the question I've been asking. It's just like it's come to me. It's the universe going, here you go, here's the answer you're looking for. But we can play with it and get to know our guides that way. And I often say, can you show me on my walk this morning, can you bring me a bird on the path in front of me, or bring me a robin? And I've had robins in my back garden. I never get birds in the back garden. I've got a dog. They'd be crazy to come anywhere near my house, but I get robins when Luna's inside and the door's shut and locked. They're not that brave. Coming right up to the back door and peeking in and looking in the lounge at me. Dom's noticed it before and said, have you just seen that? That is crazy. So, and it's unusual. It's not something that happens every single day. It's unusual. And it's when I've said, can you show me you're with me? So they're not going to be able to make an elephant manifest on your walk to work. You know, they've got to work but they can work with things quite well. And of course they know before we've asked what we're going to ask. So we might say, show me a yellow pen, and then we're like, how have they made that happen that quickly? They haven't. That was already set up.
Yeah, that's true.
The thought, they knew it was coming, and they knew that, so they put that side there. And that's when we need to get our heads out of linear time and recognize they don't experience linear time. They've already put that in our path. So it might appear 5 minutes later and we think, how have they done
that? That's really interesting, because robins, I also had a lot of experiences with robins, especially at the beginning of my development. And I would also have the same experience where I would go on a walk, let's say from work at lunch, and I would just walk, and there's a robin that just jumped out of the bushes and literally just sat in the middle just looking at me, for like quite a few seconds before I come close. It's not usual, and I've never experienced that ever before. But it was happening quite often. And there was also a time, but I was very at the very, very beginning, when I still didn't know much. I was just, open. And it was a time where I started seeing just so many rainbows. I've never seen so many in such a short span of time, but I was like, rainbows. I mean, sure, there are rainbows. It's the time of the year for rainbows. But it was interesting when I then went to the mediumship circle. Again, as an observer at the time, I wasn't doing any readings. And one of the mediums that was practicing was trying to say, so someone here, they're telling me something about rainbows, seeing many rainbows. And I was like, I knew it in my mind. Hang on, I'm seeing many rainbows. But my skeptical self at the time was like, I can't be the only one, So I didn't say anything. Nobody said anything either. And then only after a while, I thought, oh, that was for me, after a long while. I just wanted also to maybe share a little bit of experience when I started working with angels. I personally feel when I started working with angels that it was my calling to continue to work with them. And I feel it's just something that my soul is familiar with, has done for a very long time. And so I'm doing it now once I have sort of moved over the threshold of, let's say, skepticism of this lifetime. But the moment that I opened up, I had a pretty amazing experience. One of them anyway, because there were quite a few, with birds again. So speaking about unusual behavior of birds, I was doing this short meditation by Kyle Gray. He sometimes does like little free, workshops for people who want to connect with angels. And I was sitting at home, and you can see actually behind me, there's a little door. You can see because the sun is peeking through. And it's just a very small balcony. And I was just sitting in this room, and I was doing this meditation, and it's just very simple, just inviting. So you're inviting the angels to be with you and all that stuff. And then I just thought, oh, that was actually really nice, very uplifting. It always makes me feel very, just super positive is the best word I can use. Um, and in the next 5 minutes, there's a flock of birds that came here and just sat by the window, and they started looking in. I must have, I must have like really, I don't know, raised the vibration around. I don't know. It was just really big because ever since it hasn't happened, the little birds, there were like three of them. They were just chirping and looking in the window, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, it feels like they want to, or one of them wants to fly in, but the door were closed. And I was like, I don't want to come over to scare them away. So I just sat there, just looking at them. Um, and then a second later, they kind of flew back, but one of them, he didn't actually fly back. He just went back with the other two birds, but then tried to fly right back in through my window into my room. But the door was closed. So he
Oh,
hit his head, little fella. He was okay because I was so terrified when I saw this, and I thought, damn it, I should have opened the door because I felt like opening the door. But he was okay. The bird was fine,
okay, good.
but it was. But I just want to give it as a. I'm just saying it because it was an amazing experience of birds wanting to actually fly in, and ever since then, never before has it happened. So it was just, it was pretty good. Let's just say.
I love it when we get something like that that's really, really strong. And I've had a couple of experiences where I was getting to know my gatekeeper, and I saw him in my mind's eye. I used to, as a child, see spirit in front of me until it frightened the life out of me and I shut it off. So now I see clairvoyantly. So I see when I've got my eyes shut. Or sometimes I see here, but it's not. It's my mind projecting it. So I saw this guy. I saw his face. I saw his features. I saw him very, very clearly in my mind. I'd got my eyes closed. It was nighttime, and I got a candle burning because I sometimes like to put a candle on when I'm communicating. And I said to my guide, "I've just seen your face, but is that my brain showing me your face, or is that actually your face?" Not that he's got a face, of course, because he's energy, but he shows himself to me in his most recent incarnation before he passed to spirit, because my human likes to see a face and give him a name. And the human in us likes that. They don't have a name, they don't have a face, they're energy, but they did have a name and a face when they were last on earth. So they can show themselves to us in that guise, so that we can recognize them, because for us that makes it easier. I wouldn't recognize his energy to the energy of one of my other guides. So he showed me his face and I said, was that your face, or have I just visualized that? And with my eyes closed, I saw like something flash in front of my eyes. And when I opened my eyes, my tiny little tea light candle, the flame was like double the size. It was huge. And I looked at it as if to say, how on earth have you done that? And then it just like went back down to the normal size. So that is so clever. I was so impressed with that. I was like, wow. Going, there you go. And since then as well, I heard something when I was meditating in the corner next to me in my silent room here. There's nothing, there was nobody at home. It was completely silent. I was meditating and I heard quite an audible sound next to me. So I opened my eyes, and again, I'm in meditation. So I'm saying, okay, I know that was you. How did you make that sound? What did you do? And he did it again. He moved the leaf on my plant that's next to me here and scraped it against my drum to make that sound. And I saw him do it. I saw the leaf move. So again, I'm just like, oh, wow, that's so cool.
That is really amazing.
Yeah. He's done that a couple of times now. I've looked round and he's made the leaf on the plant literally bounce up and down, quite strong.
Yeah. Wow.
But yeah, it took a while to get to that stage, whereas before it would be very subtle, and now he's like, okay, I can start.
What can we do here
now?
Oh, it's so good. Yeah, I thought I'll just add a little more to what you've mentioned about, your spirit guide choosing to show himself in what he was like during his previous incarnation, and that's the same for all the spirit guides as well as our loved ones, because now they're not in a physical body, right? And their energy, but of course for the purpose of our recognition and familiarity with them, if we are clairvoyant and we can see, then they would show themselves in a way that we can, something that we can relate to, right? And it's the same with angels. So we'll probably all quite familiar with mostly religious depictions of angels that look like humans, and they have wings, and but they're basically human form. But that's not their, none of them, and I mean like spirit guides, angels, loved ones. It's not their true state, energetic state in which they are right now, or their true form, I should say. So, for instance, when I started working with angels, and I was still very much disliking all of the form that was presented for each, the human form, because it was still bringing me back to thinking of religious associations, and I was just, I had a big problem with that, let's just say. So I just decided I don't want to see them like this, and I don't need to really, because I know that they show themselves in the form that we will relate to, we can recognize. Throughout centuries, they came in that form and shown themselves to people, so so we can all relate to it. But really, they're just a pure form of light, and they most likely would show in colors, because different colors are within the universe, as we know. Different spectrums mean different things. So really, if you, for instance, ask to see an angel, spirit guide, someone, and you have a feeling of a color, for instance, then that is also correct. It doesn't, right? It doesn't have to have a human form, unless you feel like, because they would know, you don't have to even decide it for yourself, because your spirit team always knows what you want, what you're thinking about. There are no secrets in that sense. So, they know your intentions, and your heart, if your heart is pure and all that stuff, what your intention is towards yourself or others, etc., etc. If they know that you would feel scared, for instance, seeing them in a specific form, they're not going to show themselves like this to you, or they're not going to show themselves to you at all, really, if they know that they might in some way frighten you. So so yeah, I just wanted to touch on on the way that we see them, and how they appear to us.
Yeah, and there was one thing I was going to mention earlier, actually, just to uh, confirm to people who might be worrying about, will my spirit guides be angry with me if I've done something bad? Will they be annoyed with me because I asked them for their guidance? When they reside in the spirit world, they don't get angry, they don't get frustrated, they don't get impatient. These are human emotions that we feel when we come to the earth plane. They don't have them in the spirit world. They don't, those feelings, those low and dense energies are only experienced on the earth plane. So they don't ever get cross with you or sloppy with you. And if you think you can hear your guide telling you off, it's not your guide. It's most probably you. Thinking that it's your guide, it's your brain kicking in and saying, "Oh, your spirit guide is cross with you." So if you ever feel frightened or like you're getting a telling off, that's not your spirit guide, and it's most likely you. So it would be useful to come back to yourself for a minute and just let that go and know that your guides love you, and then ask again. And if you get a loving feeling behind the message, that's probably your guide or angels. They
Yeah,
won't rate you.
yeah, and sometimes I just thought of mentioning, if you don't have a specific question or looking for answer, but you just want to feel comforted, you can ask them to bring you comfort, and you'll feel it, so that you can just feel their presence and their comfort and their support. Because, like we mentioned, they're always with you, but sometimes we just need to ask for their help, because otherwise, they can't interfere if we don't want them to. But believing and setting intention and being open for them to do so will be an invitation for them to do so. And sometimes and I think now that we were talking about it, I just got a little reminder now that it's a very human thing to think that we have to do everything by ourselves and that we have to deal with things by ourselves and we have to be strong and we have to, I mean, strong in a sense of like, pushing yourself and hide your emotions. Don't, ask people for help. You should be self sufficient, whatever, independent. That is a very unhelpful way of programming, I would say. It's definitely been programming. And so I know that I've definitely experienced that at some point. I would feel almost guilty asking them for help because I just had it ingrained in me that I just need to do things by myself, or like, why would I bother them or, silly stuff like that. And so you might be going through the same thing and thinking, oh, I don't want to bother them. Or you might feel a little bit guilty that you're asking for things that maybe in your mind are trivial. You should know the answer. You should know, you should know better. Just try and put that aside and just, it's, I feel like just the act of learning how to ask for help is one step forward to any sort of healing and growing. And just remember that although in the physical world, people might sometimes have conditions based on what we ask them for help. Like if we, ask someone for help or support, they might have a condition. Okay, I'll help you if. Unfortunately, that sometimes happens in life, but you won't get that from your loved ones on the other side. Even if they were like that whilst living, they're no longer like this. So, just to
They won't do it from the other side, and that's
no,
the point actually, because if
yeah,
ever you are in touch with a spirit guide and they are trying to barter with you, saying that I'll protect you, but you've got to do something. Again, that's not your spirit guide, so that is cut off that connection, because that's not. They would never ask for anything in return. Unless that's somebody being a bit naughty. So you just want to cut that off. They will give unconditionally as often as you ask. They don't run out of energy. They don't get tired. They don't need to sleep in the spirit world like we do. They don't need to do any of that.
you don't have jobs to go to. Yeah.
They don't have jobs. They don't have kids. They haven't got to do anything. So they won't ask for anything in return. So if you feel like they are, just cut that off, because that's not, they wouldn't do that. They wouldn't do that.
Yeah, exactly. And if you start just trusting that and filling into this sort of experience of just asking for help, knowing that it is always there for you to ask for, regardless of what you did or what you think you've done, whether you feel you deserve it or you don't deserve it, that's completely non-existent in the spirit world. There's no judgment. On the other side, there is just pure love, unconditional love and support. So yeah, just remember that, I suppose, whenever you do feel like asking for some help or comfort, just support in whatever, literally whatever might be happening in your life, even if you feel bad about doing something, for example. Yeah, so I think we covered quite a bit. There's always a lot more to talk about, but it's
There's so much, isn't there? I think we could talk for a long time about it. And I think for an introduction, talking about who our guides are, who our angels are, the difference. We didn't touch on gods and goddesses this time, but maybe we could do that another time as well. And again, it's just different energies working with us. It can be an angel, it can be a being that has lived on the earth or who was perceived as a god or goddess. It's just another type of energy, but we can certainly do another session at some point and go into more detail. And if anybody wants to ask any questions, and we see there's a few questions that we think need quite a detailed answer, then we can do another live and talk about that. But I think it's such a big area that's probably quite a lot.
yeah, I know. Yeah, and it wasn't also easy to just kind of put it in a whole, simple, I think, way to start with
Yeah.
anyway. But yeah, so I think it's just the main messages that they're all there for us to call on when we need their help. and they're only one thought away. So literally, you don't have to do anything special. It's just your intention, your thought. You could literally call in your head, I don't know, grandma, let's say if you have a grandma on the other side, please can you help me with this situation? And that's literally all that's needed. You've already set intention, the energy went to your grandma, she will receive it, right? Same goes for spirit guides, angels. Just play with it. I think if you haven't ever tried, just try it. Open up, be willing, and less doubting, I suppose, although it's difficult at first.
Yeah, of course. You have to build that trust up, don't you? And
Yeah.
just on that note, in terms of what why, who to call in and for what reason, if you've got loved ones, like my nana from one side of the family, it was really strong, really tough lady. And if I need some strength or if I need a kick up the bum, I can call her in because that's her
Mm.
energy. Whereas my granddad was very gentle and quite spiritual, so I would call him in for healing something or
Mm-hmm.
having to release something. So you can call your loved ones in from the spirit world to help with something they were good at when they were here.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's a loved one you never met, even if it's a great grandparent that you've heard lots about because they were a brilliant business person or they were very caring, and you can call in, you can call their energy in to help you with what you think they'd be good at helping you with.
Mm-hmm. And also, one last thing just popped in my head as you were saying that, if you don't necessarily have anyone on the other side, um, at this point in time, and I don't know, for whatever reason, you maybe don't want to call spirit guides or angels, you can call on your ancestors, right? Because we all have a lineage of people on the other side, even if we haven't met them in real life, like you said, Mel. They're always there. So, yeah, even if you haven't met them this lifetime anyway. Yeah. So
Yeah.
just calling on universe, spirit in general is all, it will do the job as well. Yeah. Cool. Okay, so yeah, so I think we'll finish for today. But yeah, we're definitely open for any questions, any suggestions that maybe you'd like us to talk a little bit more about something specific that we mentioned today, then please let us know. And yeah, otherwise, then we'll just see you next time. Um, yeah, okay.
Will
Bye.
do. Thank
Thanks,
you,
Mel.
Pat. Bye.